This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's start with prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swakadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, we have a little bit of mantra 6 to finish, and then hopefully we can get through 7 and 8 after that. So just maybe about 10 minutes or so. Mantra 6. So what did we learn in mantra 6 so far? And what do mantras 6 to 8 talk about? Anybody? What does mantra 6 to 8 talk about?
Types of devotees.
I'm sorry?
Types of devotees. Samabhakta and Madhyama.
Types of devotees. Okay, but what's the overall theme?
A spiritual devotee sees the Lord everywhere.
Okay, so the whole 6 to 8 is talking about the vision of the Mahabharata. Yes, the vision of Mahabharata devotee. He sees everything in connection to Krishna. And so both 6 and 7 are basically expanding on that point. And then 8 is going to talk about how, not only he sees Krishna and everything and the connection of Krishna with everything, but he actually sees Krishna. And what does he see in Krishna? We're going to hear what qualities he sees in Krishna. So let me share my screen. We'll continue with text 6. Okay, so this is where we ended up. Okay, here we go. All right. You can see fine, I think. Yeah. Alrighty, so this is where we ended up. We discussed the 3 levels of devotees, and that was basically in connection to, what is their systematic vision, right? So this whole verse, and what is that systematic vision? We'll discuss that further today, the Anupashiti concept. But Kanishta, where does he see the Lord? He sees basically on the altar in the temple, or they just see, the spiritual master as being important, but not all other devotees, right? The Madhyama, he loves the Lord. He, makes friendships with his pure devotees, and then he's compassionate to the innocent, and he stays away from the envious, not out of envy, but out of compassion. He stays away from the envious, compassion for himself and compassion for the others. And the Uttamadhikaris, of course, he sees everything in connection to Krishna, right? And then we should also understand further that who are those who imitate, right? Universal brotherhood is possible, actually, but then there are some who imitate an Uttamadhikari, and they flaunt this false sense of oneness, right? They may actually go embrace the tiger, even. They can be so foolish. If an Uttamadhikari sees a tiger, what would he do? He would, see the soul and the super soul within. He's not going to be like freaked out and afraid, but he's not going to go embrace the tiger. And he may even be compassionate to the tiger and chant the holy name to the tiger or something. Or a Madhyamadikari, he may feel some compassion for the tiger and he may feed some prasadam or chant the holy name. But an imitator may actually go to the tiger and embrace him. I mean, he may not do that, but we're just saying it here. Literally, he may not do it. But the point we're trying to make is that he sees unity on the platform or on the level of the body. He doesn't see the unity on the platform of the soul, right? So therefore, he also tends to believe, this famous phrase, Manava Seva, Madhava Seva, that serving humanity is equal to serving God. So because they can see only on the platform of the body, so, he feels that serving everybody's bodies is equal to serving the Lord, right? And they, may act mainly for name, fame, profit, and whatever good they're doing. Again, they're false philanthropists. They're just doing some mundane welfare work, bodily conception of life. And Prabhupada says after finishing their spiritual master business, they'll actually go to hell. So we should be able to distinguish, because some of these imitators, right, they can speak very nicely. They can speak some high philosophy even, but we should be able to catch that whatever they're speaking, it's really on this bodily conception of life, whether it's the gross body or the subtle body. And remember, even, however subtle you go, but you cannot actually touch the soul with anything other than real bhakti, right? And so now let's look at the word Anupashiti a little bit further. So Anupashiti, Anu means to follow or practice, and Pashiti literally means to see, to observe, or to see systematically. So how do we see actually in this world? What is really seeing? Are we just seeing through our eyes? Is this the retina, or is it the central nervous system that's actually, causing us to see something? Because if you consider, even a blind person, he can actually see within his mind, can he not? He can, right? And how is he seeing within his mind? He is seeing based on his past, impressions and past visions and so on. So this whole seeing that we do, it's really in the mind. Because, like, take a very commonplace example, like even there's an accident or something, right? There may be 10 people who saw it, but then each of the 10 will give a different story, right? It's because we're not just seeing with our eyes, we're not just seeing with our nervous system or something, we're seeing based on our mind's conceptions in general, all the past impressions. So real seeing, cannot be done through the material senses. And therefore, we actually need the guidance of a Tattvadarshi. Tattvadarshi means that one who has seen the truth. One time, Srila Prabhupada was in an airport and he just pointed to all the people and he said, all these people, they're just walking dead bodies. They're not, spiritually awakened. So that's how Prabhupada saw. Devotees looked everywhere and they didn't see any dead bodies, but he saw that everybody was dead because it's just the body is moving, but their soul is so deeply covered. So we are so dependent on the guidance that we receive from a Tattvadarshi, otherwise we cannot see properly. So here's just another little kind of circle here, a flow chart, flow circle, however you want to call it. But Krishna, we know that he sees reality as it is. And he speaks about that in the Bhagavad Gita and other places. Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti jananjaya, right? So he is the truth, he's the reality, he can see reality as it is, and that reality is being passed on through the disciplic succession and through our current guru. And the guru is the one who enables us to see even the truth in Shastra properly. And then we see reality, and we really see everything in reality. We will see Krishna also. But right now, we can't see properly. This Bhagavatam verse which says Pashyati. That means that we are seeing, but we're not really seeing. And Krishna says that Aham Eva Samivagre, that verse, it's one of the Chaturshloki verses in the Bhagavatam. Krishna says that he's speaking to Brahma, and he says, if you see something, and you see that something without any connection to me, know that you're just seeing illusion, right? So we want to see the truth. And we can only truly benefit others when we have this Anupashiti vision. And one can never get that without the guidance and mercy of the Tattvadarshi, because otherwise, what are we giving to the others? We're just giving whatever is in our mind, our mind's conceptions and impressions from the past, experiences. And, it's not really that we can show them reality through that, or we cannot give somebody ultimate benefit through that. And Anupashiti also means to constantly have a living spiritual master in our life to follow, who will keep giving us direction, because the Shastras definitely give us the vision. But again, we're not always able to process the Shastras properly, because different things apply in different situations, and we need a living spiritual master. So Anupashiti also means that. So how we see very much depends on what influences we allow on ourselves. Yeah, it's a significant thing in our life. So if you're seeing through a magnifying glass, everything will look big, right? But so what is reality? What is illusion? Very much depends on what is the lens through which we're seeing the world. Yes? So are we seeing the world through the lens of Krishna and the Tattvadarshis in our life? Or are we just seeing through some material influences, What do we consider as good in our life or bad in our life? Is it just somebody who speaks well, dresses well, holds some important position, someone who's, dexterous in some skills or famous, Is our life kind of constructed just around that? Vox populi, as they call it, whatever people, just majority of the people, what they believe in? Or is it what Shastra and Guru says? So I'll conclude with, I'll give an example. One time Ramanujacharya, he was giving a talk on Ramayana, and he was talking about the part where Vibhishan, he leaves not Lord Ram, he leaves Ravana and he's coming to Ram. And Lord Ram, he makes him wait at that time. He actually discusses with all the Vanaras and asks whether they should accept Vibhishan or not. And everybody says accept him, right? But Hanuman says no. So Hanuman is somebody who has this Anupashiti vision, right? Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he assured us that if we follow him, he'll take us back to him. Now, do we have faith in that? That's part of Anupashiti vision. Or if we don't have faith in it, then, what are we being influenced by then? That's a question we have to ask ourselves, right? So I'll end with just some other additional points which our acharyas make on this verse. Madhvacharya, one of the commentators on ISOPANISAD, he says that Vijagupsate not only means that one doesn't hate anything, but it also means that he doesn't desire to protect himself, because basically he's seeing the Lord everywhere, and he's seeing that the Lord is orchestrating everything. So what is the need to protect himself? He just feels himself like to be in the hands of the Lord. Then Vedanta Deshika, he comes in the Sri Sampradaya. He says that the Lord is the inner soul Atma of everyone, and everything is situated in him, or the Paramatma. And Anupashiti basically means that the person meditates skillfully and continuously on this. It's such a nice explanation of what Anupashiti means. Not see systematically also then means that we really have to contemplate, and we have to continuously do this to develop this vision. It's a practice. It's not just going to happen overnight. And we shouldn't just think that, oh yeah, I'm chanting, so everything will change. Yes, it will change, provided our chanting is of that quality, right? But otherwise, otherwise is not the right word. We must actually actively cultivate simultaneously, because that is just a devotee's expression to the Lord that, you're important to me, my Lord, and I want to practice these qualities that are pleasing to you. I want to see you everywhere, right? So he sees Krishna inside and outside of everything, and therefore he doesn't criticize, he doesn't hate, he doesn't defend himself, and he treats everyone just as a person treats their own personal wealth or family. Because, Krishna is his wealth, and he's seeing Krishna everywhere. So everybody is valuable, and he doesn't hate anybody. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that hatred and love are opposites. Unless one is devoid of hatred, one cannot love. That's pretty significant. We're all trying to love the Lord. But if we have hatred within us, how can we love the Lord? So one who sees everything in relation to the Lord easily attains love. So this is our practice. And last week I had given you this, homework exercise, but we can take it again and keep doing this. We cannot try to at once see Krishna in the heart of everyone, but we can try to see Krishna in the heart of two people. It's very specific and it's something doable. And by seeing Krishna in the heart of two individuals, even every day, you will notice that you'll start to see Krishna in the hearts of more people. But if we start with, I'll see Krishna everywhere, that doesn't work. It's just specific, measurable, a smart goal. And also practicing Krishna in the heart of someone, you have some particular difficulty with also. Okay, so that's the end of chapter, mantra 6, not chapter, mantra 6. Any questions or comments so far before we go to 7? Nothing?
Hare Krishna Mataji, send afternoon.
Yeah.
Mataji, my name is Vishnu Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Trying to locate you on these boxes here.
Sorry, Mataji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mataji, I just have one doubt, Mataji. So you told in the last class that particularly if we don't like any person or hate someone, we should see Krishna, try to see Krishna in them. Then we can maybe not loving, but at least stop hating them or something, start loving them like that. But I practiced it. I tried it. Not like I hate someone, but sometimes we feel some little frustrated or irritated on someone. Always they pull us or criticize us for some things, maybe doing bhakti also. So I practiced that, but practically I didn't start loving them, but I'm thinking like, if Krishna is there in their hearts, but still they are behaving like that. So
Hmm.
I'm just getting that
So
idea.
I would change the question a little bit. Krishna is there in their heart. Krishna is there in my heart.
Yeah.
Why is it? Why is it that Krishna is inspiring them to behave like that around me? And the same person may not behave like that with someone else, actually, right? So
Yeah.
why is it that Krishna is inspiring them to act like that or talk like that around me? What is Krishna telling me? You know, what's the message for me?
Okay.
Yes, the message could be many different things. It could be that I need to learn tolerance or patience, or maybe Krishna is addressing some deeper tendency, attachment within me. Maybe my tendency to control in some way. You know, I have to know your life to say more than that, but I'm just speaking very broadly right now. Right? Or sometimes it could be even the other, like, you know, just that we need to speak up a little bit, that not learn to express ourselves, not just simply get frustrated with the other person, but learn to express ourselves and our needs in a, you know, in a balanced way, in a clear way, in an assertive way, and not just have expectation that this person should be this or that. If I need something, ask for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
So,
Mataji, that we are learning many things from you, and I'm trying to practice few things, but I just got this doubt, Mataji. I
yeah,
will
wonderful.
practice.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's my greatest happiness that you try to practice it, because we'll finish the book very soon. We're almost, almost halfway. Today we'll reach almost halfway, and you know, very soon we'll finish the book. You'll write the exam. You'll pass the exams. But
Yeah.
then, you know, really we want our life to change. So I'm so happy that you're applying yourself.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so shall we start mantra 7? Yes, okay. All right. Where's my mantra 7 here? Okay. Just 1 second. Okay, some reason I'm not able to see the. Just 1 second, okay? Okay, never mind. I will just. I'm trying to see the presenter view, but I'm not able to get to that. It's okay. I may not remember the order of all the slides, but that's okay. All right, so mantra 7. So mantra 7, it's further describing the consciousness of the Bhagavad that was introduced, who was introduced in mantra 6. And here specifically, we're going to hear about the oneness in quality with the Lord and not so much in quantity. So let's read mantra 7. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhutvijanataha tatra ko moha kashuka ekatvam anupashyataha. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? So this translation, it's a little bit a purported translation, and Prabhupada does that in many places. So there's this word ekatvam, and ekatvam just means oneness, actually. But Prabhupada, even in the word-to-word translation, if you see, he says oneness in quality. So Prabhupada just adds that oneness in quality because Prabhupada has so much compassion for all of us. He really wants us to catch the essence, right? So he doesn't want to leave any room for anybody to speculate what this oneness is. So at once he clarifies this is oneness in quality. He doesn't wait even for the purport. So two significant words here, ekatvam and anupashita. Yeah. So ekatvam is oneness. And so he sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, basically. And this ekatvam, Prabhupada writes three different examples here. Anybody can tell me what are the analogies he gives for the oneness very quickly?
Sun, the rays and sun.
Yeah, not sun rays so much. It's this fire which has the energy of heat and light. So heat and light are one with the fire, and yet they're different. And
Salt,
what's
salt
another?
in water and
Salt
ocean.
in a drop of water and ocean. Yes. And
gold and gold mine.
golden gold mine. And also family. He gives the example of a family, right? The common interest of a family. So basically, in the previous verse, we heard a lot about the difference that, the person, the Mahabharata, sees the Atma in every living entity, and he sees the difference between them. So we saw about relationships there. We saw two things, the difference. But here we are seeing the oneness or the abheda, bheda and abheda. So impersonalists actually like this verse very much because it's talking about oneness. But again, one of the aims of our Shastric studies, one of the goals is academic and moral integrity. So that means that we don't see, any mantra or verse or purport or, something by itself. We need to see the whole context, what comes before, what comes after. And we also need to consider the conclusion of the book. So you just don't take out one word and then make the whole book about that, right? So the impersonalists like this verse, but they don't consider what was already said in the previous verse. So this is the vision of both Madhyamadikari and Uttamadikari, but how they come to this vision is different. So the Uttamadikari, he very directly sees in terms of Shastra, whereas Madhyamadikari, he studies the Shastra, he hears from the Uttamadikari, and he obtains vision from them. So proportionate to the advancement and understanding of Madhyamadikari, he becomes actually free from illusion, anxieties, lamentation by, seeing this oneness in the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada says that, we cannot have oneness on all levels, right? Can you tell me some quick points, just based on our study of ISOPANISAD so far, why we cannot have oneness on all levels? Why is it only in quality? Can you all think of some things just in the last 6 verses? Quick points. Because we want to be able to defeat the impersonalists just using ISOPANISAD. Because remember, this was one of Prabhupada's goals in translating the ISOPANISAD, because this is a Shruti, and usually impersonalists, they have faith in Shruti. So we want to use Shruti to really defeat the impersonalist understandings. So tell me very quickly, how can we say that, okay, this is only oneness in quality? And
we cannot be everywhere.
We cannot be everywhere. Okay. Okay. What else?
Like in last verse, there is a like controversies like Krishna can be inside and outside also. That we cannot do that kind of things.
Okay. Okay.
He walks, yet he doesn't walk. Those things, it's not possible.
Okay. All right.
And we are not complete, Mataji. And until
We're
unless
not complete. We are a part. We can never be equal to the whole. So we can only have oneness in quality, not in quantity. Right? So we're not one in every way. And we heard how this, the Isha, he surpasses all in excellence. So he's not equal to us. And he's the one who gives a little quota to the living entities, right? But he's the proprietor of everyone and everything. And we also heard how even the demigods cannot surpass him, right? So those are some quick things we can say right away to a Mayavadi. Okay, I'm just now seeing the chat. Okay, we'll come to this question, Giridhari Prabhu. Yeah. So salt and drop of water and ocean, that's one example, right? So the living entities, we can get up to maybe 78% of the qualities, when we are totally perfected, like Lord Brahma has 78% imperfection. But all of us, the rest of us, we have maybe one or two qualities or a few qualities in just very, very minute quantity. Or the fire and spark analogy, the living entities are like spiritual sparks, and Krishna is like the sun, right? Or the fire. And sometimes, little sparks jump out of the fire and they look like fire. They may even burn like fire. But and the quality of fire is there in the spark, but the potency is very different. It can get extinguished right away. So Srila Prabhupada says again that we can defeat impersonalism like this. If we are Brahman, how can we come under the control of material nature? Fire can devour everything, but the spark, it cannot. It gets extinguished very easily, right? So similarly. And yet there's oneness because heat and light, they cannot be separated from the fire, actually. And then Prabhupada also talks about the oneness in interest. Yes? So oneness in interest, he gives the example of the family. And many things can be said. Prabhupada talks about how we all want enjoyment, anandamaya abhyasa. By nature, every living entity wants eternal enjoyment. And Krishna is eternally happy. And he is always seeking to increase his enjoyment. He's Sachidananda. And we also are Sachidananda. And we also seek to be happy and satisfied and so on, but we are seeking enjoyment in the wrong place. So we have to learn how to generate, this enjoyment that we're looking for by putting Krishna in the center. So how? Why? Because he's the supreme enjoyer. And how does that help us? Because we are actually part and parcel of him. And he's the root of all existence. So by watering the root, we'll all become happy. Not by watering the leaves. It's an example that we've probably heard on day 1 or day 2 of our Krishna consciousness. And yet, it's such an essence of Krishna consciousness that we can always go deeper and deeper in it. And let's look at some just examples of this oneness of interest based on how we're part and parcel of Krishna. Right? Krishna is directly speaking in the Bhagavad Gita. He's telling Arjuna, think of me in the form of Krishna. At the same time, carry out your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you'll attain me without doubt. So Krishna is saying, align yourself, make your interest one with me. Yes? Or in the 14th chapter, he says that he is Aham Bija Pradapita. He's the source of all the living entities, right? And it should be understood that all species of life are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I'm the seed-giving Father. Or in the 18th chapter, by worship of the Lord, who's the source of all beings and who's all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So there are many more examples, but I just pulled out a few to just show how Krishna is inviting all of us to, align ourselves with him, right? So you can also see in page 52, it's the second last page. Maybe I'm not sure which page in your book. But Prabhupada says the real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who's the center of the sublime and spiritual rasa dance. So Srila Prabhupada's kind of real vision for the Krishna consciousness movement is coming out here, and his whole mood and mission for all of us. So he really came to bring us to this highest platform, back to the rasa dance, where Krishna is the center, and where, the gopis are dancing just to please him. And when Krishna sees the gopis dancing, Krishna becomes so happy, right? So pleased, he smiles. And when the gopis see Krishna's happiness, the gopis become even more beautiful, right? And the gopis become even more beautiful, and they're giving more pleasure to Krishna, and Krishna becomes even more happy. So forever, we can experience this ever increasing joy in our life without any clash. So Prabhupada says we're all meant to join him and enjoy life with one transcendental interest without any clashes, just unlimited waves of, increasing happiness, right? So how do we get out of all this illusion and anxiety we're in right now? So Prabhupada says in the purport, if we wish to get rid of all sorts of illusion and anxiety and create unity out of all diverse interests, we must bring God into all our activities. We have to make him the center. There's no two ways about it. And in the material world, there'll always be material differences. This is another very nice quote of Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, material nature means dissension and disagreement, especially in this Kali Yuga. But for this Krishna consciousness movement, its success will depend on agreement, even though there are varieties of engagements. In the material world, there are varieties, but there's no agreement. In the spiritual world, there are varieties, but there's agreement. Why? Because Krishna is the center. That is the difference. The materialist, without being able to adjust the varieties and the disagreements, makes everything zero. They cannot come into agreement with varieties. But if you keep Krishna in the center, then there will be agreement in varieties. This is called unity in diversity. And then he's suggesting to all the men to meet once a year in Mayapur on, around Gaur Purnima time, with all GBC and senior men present. We should discuss how to make unity in diversity. But if we fight on account of diversity, then it's simply the material platform. Please try to maintain the philosophy of unity in diversity. That will make our movement successful. So sometimes we all have this little impersonal tendency in us, of trying to make everything one. Like even when we are guiding people or whatever, sharing Krishna consciousness with others, we may have certain realization, we may get some insights from Krishna, but it's not that everybody has to align to just the way we think. Yeah, we are there to share the principles and so on, but how exactly, things pan out in their life, it may be a little different than our life. So there is diversity because we have many natures. There's variety. Krishna likes variety. I mean, this is something that I appreciate so much always, especially when I go to Vrindavan, or Mayapur. Such an international, society we have. We don't always get that flavor everywhere. In some temples, we get more of that flavor. And in Alachua, it's majority are Americans. There's many Spanish, there's many Russians, there's also some Indians. But it's so beautiful to just see everybody doing their little part as an offering to Krishna. So I'm looking at the time. I think we can take 5 minutes. I want to do this little group exercise. I'll divide you all up into 3 or 4 people each. And you please discuss a few principles that could be used as guidelines for behavior that would reflect unity in diversity. Okay, so just discuss a few principles. How can we do this in our life? And then, we'll continue after that. So I'll stop share. You will get a little dialog box which will say join the group. Somebody is saying, but if the same spark falls on the dried leaves, that may lead to fire. Sure. Analogies have their limitations, so we have to use them carefully. Okay, breakout rooms. Let me put 4 people in each group. And, oh wait. Yeah. All right. You can please join the rooms. Are some of you having some difficulty joining the room? I see that there's still some here. Did you not get the message to join? Sumitra, Gopal Prabhu, Sarvabhavana, Nagamaleshwara, Govinda, Gangapati. Please look on your screen. You'll have something to join the room. And if you don't want to, that's fine, no pressure. Nice to have you back, Nandip Sachi. Yeah, so we may not always know what Krishna wants, but we can know quite easily what the spiritual master wants. So to really make the teachings emanating from the lotus mouth of our spiritual master one with our heart and not desiring anything else. So this is the best way of our advancement. And here's Lord Chaitanya's description of his sense of oneness of interest. He's, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, the 4th verse of Shikshashtakam. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So he doesn't have any other interest. That's what he's expressing here. I don't have any interest. I have only one interest. And that interest is that he wants to serve the Lord, birth after birth. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that by adopting the oneness of interest with the Lord, one may become even more than one with the Lord. What does he mean by that? We see this perhaps in the example of, Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai, they were kind of excluded by Lord Chaitanya, right? But by Lord Nityananda's appeal, they were actually accepted. Lord Chaitanya wanted everyone to preach. And Lord Nityananda, he accepted that desire. He made his life one in interest with the desire of Lord Chaitanya. And he went, to even a greater extent to make that desire manifest, right? He really wanted to deliver everyone. So in this sense, he accepted it even more than Lord Chaitanya's desire. And one becomes more effectively and more completely one by making one's interest one with the Lord than by merging, actually, because your whole life becomes completely aligned to just the Lord's interest. By merging, there's nothing much you can do because you can't offer any service when you're merged. You're just one with the Lord, but you're not doing anything, right? So this whole Anupashita, seeing with knowledge of Shastra and authority, is our way of finding this unity and also completely coming out of illusion and grief, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he also says that illusion and grief they're very contrary to knowledge, because if illusion and grief are present, knowledge is absent. So therefore, it's very essential for us to see this Paramatma, see the Lord in the heart of everyone. And Srila Prabhupada was always pushing for all of us to develop this Ekatvam Anupashita vision, right? He was not just seeing the material differences at all. And because of this vision of Srila Prabhupada, actually his movement spread all over the world. And this is what actually distinguished Srila Prabhupada from all other gurus. And he could unite very, very diverse cultures under one roof. And, wherever we go all over the world, we just feel right at home as soon as you meet another devotee. He's created such a unity. Otherwise, I would never imagine having friends from so many cultural backgrounds. But I have some of the deepest friendships from people of other cultures. So such unity, because he pushed for this principle. And seeing oneness is also something, it's a feature of the mode of goodness. When we see the connection of everything, with the Lord, that's actually a feature of goodness. Or not necessarily that in goodness they directly see the connection of everything with God, but they try to see that connection, how are people connected? They try to find connection, people in the mode of goodness. Whereas people in the mode of passion, they see everything separate and they see everything as an opportunity to, get what they want, get their fruits fulfilled in one way or the other. And of course, those in the mode of ignorance, they don't hope for much from their life. They've already given up hope in a way. So they don't make much of endeavors of any kind, right? But we want to come to not only mode of goodness, but we want to come to transcendence, and we want to see this oneness in the sense that we want to see everything connected to the Lord. And we want to align our life and help others align their life, with the Lord's interest. And here's a little chart which summarizes the whole verse. This is made by one of my godbrothers. Should put his name here, Amritananda Prabhu. But that's useful for your exams, perhaps. So that concludes mantra 7. Please try to reflect further on the little group exercise we did together and practice it in your life in little ways, in specific ways, and then that vision will grow more and more. Any questions, comments, and get to mantra 8.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Mritalila here.
Hare Krishna.
There is no
Hare
question.
Krishna. Uh-huh.
Yeah. The comment says this group discussion or group activity is really helpful in brainstorming ourselves, because we are hearing you, sometimes, missing some parts, but when with those activities, we are getting all your points. Yeah, so from different persons, that's really nice. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Yeah, Zoom, of course, makes it a little challenging than in person, but still, we can do a little bit.
True, Mataji.
Yeah, and I think Giridhari Prabhu, your question is covered, right? We did discuss it.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right. So we are ready for mantra 8 then? We will learn here how the devotee sees the Lord himself, because the Mahabhagavat devotee, he not only sees the relation of everything with the Lord and oneness, but he actually sees the Lord. And what does he see? So the realization of the Mahabhagavat is actually expressed in mantra 8. Okay. Beautiful picture of Krishna, isn't it? How can we not get attracted to Krishna? Right, I'm ready. So, mantra 8 mentions some of the qualities of the Lord as he's known by the Uttamadhikari. And the theme is that the Lord has a transcendental form and attributes that are unlike that of any materially embodied entity. So let's read this. So this is a different meter. It's longer. There's 12 syllables in each line. Saparyaga chukram akayam avranam ashnaviram shuddham apapavidham kavir manishi parabhus swayambhur yathatyathorthan yadada shashvatibhya samabhyaha. Such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. Anything you find interesting in this verse? What jumps out at you? Any particular thing? Different things may jump out for different people, but I'm just curious. What was interesting for you in this verse when you read it?
Without pains, Mother.
Without veins. Yeah, without veins. That's very interesting.
He is fulfilling everyone's desire.
Since time immemorial, that's what caught my attention. Not like today, yesterday, but since time immemorial, he's fulfilling everyone's desire. Anything else?
Omniscient. He's present everywhere.
Omniscient. Omniscient. He knows everything. Omniscient means he knows whatever is going on everywhere at all times. So he knows exactly what each of you are thinking even before you formulate that thought completely. Right? It happens in Bhagavad Gita, like Krishna smiles because he knows that Arjuna is going to change his mood now and he's going to become hesitant. So Krishna already knew what's going to happen. Okay. So the transcendental qualities of the Lord are being described here. And I kind of bunched them into three main categories. So the first is describing set of three, the transcendental nature of the body. So akayam. Akayam means unembodied. And what does Prabhupada say about akayam? Kaya actually means body, and akaya means no form. So basically by that it means that Krishna is not a soul within a body. His body, mind, and soul are all non-different. The soul actually has a form, and Krishna has this transcendental form. Prabhupada explains that, in some other places, he explains how the soul has a form, and the matter is the one that's actually formless. Because we can see all around, like if you don't do anything to the earth is just kind of lying there formless. But as soon as there is a seed, or the human being does something with the earth, he can make something with the earth, then there's a form, right? Also, formless matter means that it's temporary or changing. So Krishna has a spiritual form, and he may even do some material functions, which look like material functions. They're not material functions, but he's never actually covered by the material energy, as we know, right? So he's completely non-different. His body, mind, soul, they're all completely the same. For us, actually deep down, we want to surrender to Krishna. Our soul desires to surrender to Krishna, but the mind, it'll chase after some sense gratification. We are divided. We have multiple interests, but Krishna is just one all through. And some of our acharyas also explain that Krishna not only doesn't have a gross body, but he doesn't have a subtle body. And he's completely beyond the range of our mind and senses. We cannot conceive of this transcendental form. So that's what akaya means. And Ashnaviram means without veins. So basically it means that no gross body and therefore no need for any veins. And Shukram means omnipotent. Omnipotent. He has all the potencies. Prabhupada quotes Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti, that he can do any function of any part of the body with another part of the body. He can taste with his eyes. He can walk with his hands, anything. He can do anything. And also Krishna is in Goloka, but he's also in all his incarnations. So all the expansions are also same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that sense, also he's omnipotent. And just imagine, like in the, in the previous verse, right? Mantra 5. I think in the last line, we read that although there is oneness, however, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys unlimitedly all the pleasures enjoyed minutely by the tiny part and parcel living entities. So you can just imagine the capacity of enjoyment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He enjoys the enjoyment experienced by all his expansions, including the enjoyment of all the living entities. Wow, he's really omnipotent. And he's also omnipotent in the form of his deity, the Archavigraha that Prabhupada talks about at length here. And all these qualities that we're discussing here, they apply not only directly to Krishna's personal form, but also the deity form. And the deity form really also is his personal form, right? So many examples we could give. We discussed some examples last time, but the example of Shakshi Gopal and Shirashora Gopinath, right? There's also the deities of Gauridas Pandit. When Lord Chaitanya wanted to take sannyas, right? He told Gauridas Pandit, and Gauridas Pandit was like, how can you leave? So Lord Chaitanya just manifests the deities of himself and Lord Nityananda, and these deities are still there in Ambika Kalna. Very beautiful deities, very tall deities. But so when he manifests the deities, Lord Chaitanya says, okay, they'll stay. And Gauridas Pandit says, no, how come you're asking the deities to stay? You stay and let the deities go. So Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda say, all right, fine, we'll stay. And then the deities start walking out. And then Gauridas says, no, that's okay. They can stay and you can go. So this happens back and forth so many times that by the end, Gauridas Pandit was confused himself, which is the deity and which is, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, right? That place also has the oar that Lord Chaitanya used for going across Ganges and stuff. And also the Bhagavad Gita that was written by Lord Chaitanya. So that's still there. And of course, there's so many pastimes of Jagannath in Mayapur, Narasimha in Mayapur. And, even sometimes in our other temples, there's pastimes of the Lord in showing his omnipotent energies, right? One time, I forget where this was, but I heard about it. So devotees got some pickled cucumbers. We get these in the West, canned pickled cucumbers, and they were not sure whether they should offer to the deities or not. So what they did was they put the pickled cucumbers in a separate plate, and then they offered to the Lord, and they just stepped out of the altar and they just said, okay, if it's, if you can accept, please accept. Otherwise, if you could please let us know in some way. So as soon as they came off the altar, they heard a plate sound falling off. So basically all the cucumbers fell down and, the plate was just lying in the corner. And devotees understood that, okay, this is not offerable. Krishna doesn't like anything canned or pickled by some outsiders. Or anyway, so many pastimes. Sometimes, deities' dresses also don't fit. Deities also put on weight sometimes. Or there's the story of Lal Babu in Nectar of Devotion. Maybe you've heard that being described. He was a wealthy merchant, but renounced, and he had a lot of devotion, but he was competing with another wealthy person. But finally, he just decides to surrender, and then he builds a temple. Lal Babu Temple. It's called till today. It's behind the Ranganath Temple in Vrindavan, and over there's the deity of Chandra Krishna. And he gets this doubt, is this really Krishna? So he just decides to put some butter on Krishna's head. And actually the butter starts melting. So then he understood, no, this is Krishna. I should never doubt. So because body temperature is usually warm, so the butter starts melting. And of course, the Lord, completely reserves the right to reveal himself by his omnipotency. So that's Shukram. And I'm going to go a little faster. So purity. Purity is Avranam, is without reproach. So nobody can criticize the Lord, really. You know, people criticize the Lord's dancing with the gopis and so on, but there's nothing wrong that, you know, he's doing, because everybody, they're all his energy. There's nothing adharmic about it. And Shuddham means antiseptic. So it means pure, it means there's no faults, it means there's no dissatisfaction in the Lord. It's antiseptic. That means that by contacting him, we can also, you know, get purified. And so Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, you know, just surrender unto me, right? Or the example of the sun, like in Indian villages, you know, people pass everywhere, but the sun purifies everything. It's so Krishna can purify anything that comes in contact with him. And apapa wisdom, I really like the word prophylactic that Prabhupada uses here. Prophylactic means, it's a word used in medicine, basically like it's a preventative thing for something. Like before it happens, you actually take something as a prophylaxis to prevent it. And Prabhupada had pharmacy background, so I think that's why he uses some of these words. And Prabhupada is commenting in the purport that this refers to power of his association. It's one of the most beautiful part of the purports, right? So not only it, you know, he can purify the object, but he also gives that object his own qualities. And he can also make that object immune, and he can empower that object to make other objects purified also, right? So this is Krishna's apapa vidam. So Krishna can empower, he can make jivas pure like him so that he can purify others, right? So it's beautiful to think about it. So never feel, you know, sometimes devotees feel when they feel down or something, when they become very aware of, you know, their anarthas. Sometimes they avoid going in front of Krishna because they're just feeling so embarrassed and ashamed and so on. But we never need to feel ashamed in front of Krishna. He can purify anything, and Krishna never gets contaminated by anything. And he's our only hope. If we avoid him, where will he go? So go to him at all times. I think we talked about it last week also towards the end. And then greatest of all. So Paribu, the greatest of all. So these are qualities which indicate his greatness. So the greatest, and by this we can also defeat impersonalism, right? If the moment there's two, if somebody is the greatest, then it means the others are not. So that means there's already two, there's duality. If we were one, Prabhupada says we would not need to pray to God. We would not need to be beggars. He gets quite heavy here. But he says, you know, what was the point of begging if he was the same as us? And Kavi means omniscient. It's somebody who's wise, who is the creator of beautiful compositions, expressing his realization of the Supreme, like Vyasadeva, he's called a Kavi also. Kavi is basically someone also who can transform matter into spirit, right? And Krishna, of course, can do that. One time, Srila Prabhupada was asked, actually, if Krishna can convert living entities into dull matter. And so Srila Prabhupada says, yes, does not, because he doesn't interfere, you know, control anybody unduly. His only interest is in this enjoyment. Manishi means philosopher. also means wise, somebody who knows the past, present, and future, and somebody who can control the minds of all living beings, starting from Brahma and even Lakshmi. And Swayambhu is self-sufficient. He doesn't need another person in one sense. He never takes shelter of anyone. He's not dependent on anyone or anything. And Yathat Yatha, Arthan Yatha. So this means that he fulfills the desires of everyone from time immemorial, right? In proportion to their surrender, of course. So ye yatham mam prapadyante tam statena vajamyaham. So how does Krishna fulfill material desires? Based on how much we desire and what we deserve. And he's in our heart as the super soul, and he's performing the function of witnessing and then granting, right? What you desire, he witnesses that, and then he grants certain things. And the spiritual desires, he fulfills based on our eagerness, right? We may have some qualifications and so on, but ultimately we need Krishna's mercy to fulfill those desires. So that is the last quality. And this is Archavigraha. Oh, here's the pictures of Gauridas Pandit's deities. And I had a quote from Srila Prabhupada and Apapa, but perhaps I won't read it right now. I'll let you all read it. I'll share the slide. So one thing we'll just discuss a little bit is just, Prabhupada says in the purport that the living being does not know what to ask from the Lord, nor which post to seek, right? But then he says, when the living being comes to know his constitutional position, however, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings under the influence of material nature ask for many other things. I think you all know this famous story of a lady who was carrying this heavy, heavy bundle of sticks, and she passing through a forest, and she's so tired, and she calls out to the Lord for help. And Krishna comes, and Krishna says, "What can I do for you?" And the lady says, "Can you please help lift this bundle, and put it back on my head?" So sometimes we're very much like that. We don't know what to ask for. We're just asking for some petty material things. But if we have some realization, we'll only ask about our relationship with the Lord. But Krishna is so kind. So this is the part. Nonetheless, the Lord is so kind that he allows the forgetful living entity to continue in this way without interference. And that's also his love. And he'll let the living entity continue until he comes to the point where, this intensity of suffering becomes so much and things will not make any sense in his life so much that at some point, he may ask the question, why am I suffering? Right? And that also, really, it can only happen when somehow we get the mercy of devotees. And that's when that little spiritual awakening happens, even to ask the questions, why this way? Why is there suffering? Right? So finishing up, so we can defeat impersonalism using this verse, because so many personal qualities of the Lord are being described. He fulfills desires, so that's proof of variety and individualism. Also, he's uncontaminated, meaning that he can never be influenced by the material nature. And begging or praying to the Lord means that there's two. If the Lord was just one with us, what's the point of begging? So I'll leave you all with the personal reflection exercise. You please make a list of all the qualities of the Lord from mantras 4 to 8 and go through them and just see if there's one quality that you're particularly attracted to. And you can meditate on it further while chanting. Just go deeper in it. Try to see how you can appreciate that quality of Krishna in different areas of your life or in different people. Because Krishna's qualities are one of the stimulants for really awakening bhava in our heart. And if you've read the chapter on Krishna's qualities in Nectar of Devotion, we don't do that for Bhakti Shastri, but I highly encourage you to read it. It's a beautiful, beautiful 2 or 3 chapters. And when you just read Krishna's qualities, something happens, because they're udipans, they're one of the stimulants for just awakening our ecstasies. So we can meditate on this quality that attracts you, even just in these verses. Just take one quality, and not only you can think about it while chanting, but you can also try to find maybe like one person in your life, 1 or 2 persons who exhibit a little bit of that quality. And you can meditate on it further and see what happens. Because when you associate, this is something that's described, that when you associate with Krishna's qualities, or when you think of Krishna's qualities, Krishna has this nature where he lends that quality to you. So it's wonderful. Krishna consciousness is not all difficult. Krishna is so kind. There's so many ways and means by which we can grow. Let's see if there's any questions or comments. Oh, can you share the deities of Gauridas Pandit once again? How about I send it to you on WhatsApp? I'll send it to Navdeep Sachi Mataji, and she'll just send it to all of you. You'll have a WhatsApp group, right? So you can keep those picture permanently with you. Okay, any other questions, comments, reflections?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
No, some comments or
Comment.
comments.
Yeah, please.
You shared some stories for that pickle, and other stories, how deities, they really, grow, that, strengthen our faith.
You got cut off. I can't hear you.
Ayurvedic doctor who comes, give medicines, and also another point I just want to bring here, as already we have discussed unity in diversity. Jagannath's like clothes, who used to stitch, he used to be a Muslim, and
right.
like even his faith is different, but he understood like Lord is one, and Jagannath, Lord of universe, and he was giving his service like so faithfully. Sometimes one argument was there. There is a pastimes, like no how. So, and thank you so much for bringing all those points and stressing out, qualities, and realizing that listening to you itself gives some motivation to dive down more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your encouragement. Yeah, there's so many pastimes, I mean, there's a whole book of Jagannath pastimes and Narasimha pastimes and Mayapur. Yeah. So obviously we can't discuss all the deity pastimes. We could do a separate class on just that series of classes, just deity pastimes. It's so beautiful. But you can get these books, you can order these books in India very easily and read them. They're so strengthening to our faith. Okay, anything else? We have another minute. Okay, thank you all very much. Next week, please try to read mantra 9, 10, 11. I'm going to try to do 3, but if not, 2 or 2.5. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bye.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.